What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Today is day number 3 of Go Battle Week, and with it, it seems like a lot of trainers have given up on making real teams. There's a lot of really annoying stuff running around, Wigglytuff with Drifblim in the back, a lot of grass types, dragon types in the lead, and with all of those leads, Alolan Sandslash is absolutely fantastic. If you want to take out a lot of annoying Pokemon, this is the best core breaker you can use, and it was a lot of fun to use today. If you want to see my battles live, I stream daily at twitch.tv/ItsAXN, where you can see live insights into my gameplay and see my teams early. I'd love to see you there. The link to that is down in the description. But without further ado, let's get into the battles and see what this team can do. Alright, getting into game number 1, Alolan Sandslash in the lead up against a Shadow Electivire. What a way to start out the video. One of the scariest Pokemon you could possibly see here, just because I know a Wild Charge would one-shot us, and they pace evenly to our Ice Punches and their Wild Charges, which means the longer this matchup goes on, the more it's going to be very scary to try to shield these charge moves. Ice Punch ends up baiting us as well here, which means their defense stat does not get lowered. Ice Punch is going to come through of our own. We're going to try to get the knockout if we can. This is a very squishy Pokemon. You can see our fast food pressure already tripping them down quite a bit, and I'm hoping once this is out of the way, our Shadow Feraligatr is going to have a lot more play in the backline. I'm going to shield again. Luckily, not another bait here. Wild Charge is going to come through, and I did CMP the Ice Punch here. This should do quite a bit of damage if they let it land. Our opponent does end up shielding and coming in with a Corviknight. We do have a lot of play to this Pokemon. Honestly, I'm not that scared of it. I'm going to build up a lot of energy with our Alolan Sandslash, just in case we need to combo play that Electivire later on. That way we have those Ice Punches or even a Drill Run loaded. In comes a Charge Move. As long as it's not payback, it's not going to be that scary. And you can see Sand Attack from this Corviknight is only doing 1 damage to us. Corviknight, honestly, is such an awkward Pokemon to use. I tried to use it the first day it came out, but because of the fact that a lot of matchups here, you're only doing 1 or 2 damage with your fast food pressure, it makes it so you have to throw charge moves to knock out the opponent. They do go for the Iron Head, and they will reach another one here right at the last second, but even still, I'm kind of fine getting a farm down with my own Shadow Feraligatr. If I see that Electivire come in, I can combo play them with my Alolan Sandslash. Let's see what our opponent has in the backline. Corviknight goes down to a Shadow Claw. Our opponent brings in a Shadow Dragonite. Well, that's perfectly fine. All we have to do here is build up to back-to-back Ice Punches, and if they would have swapped into Electivire, throw it there. But if they don't, we just have to throw one after another, and we can knock out the Dragonite, knock out this Electivire. Very cool team, honestly, by our opponent. Very squishy team using Shadow Dragonite and Shadow Electivire. A-Slash able to just barely come out on top against both of those. Alright, next game, Alolan Sandslash up against an Azumarill in lead. Very good lead matchup, although honestly, our whole team has a lot of play into this, and a lot of the time you're going to see things in the back with an Azumarill lead that your Alolan Sandslash would rather see. So there's a good chance here that I should try to bait that out with our Shadow Feraligatr at some point. There might be a grass type in the back that could be tricky like a Superior. There might be a Morpeko as well. That would be an absolutely terrible thing to see if we don't have a way to get rid of it a little bit earlier on. In comes a charge move. As long as it's not a Hydro Pump, we do resist the charge move pressure. Player up comes through. The bubbles are really what does the damage in this matchup. Our opponent swapping out to a Guzzlord. This is another Pokemon that you definitely have to bait out. Our backline is very weak to this, but with that said, our Shadow Feraligatr does have access to Ice Beam. You can basically one-shot this Pokemon if they let you. Dragon Claw comes through. Ice Beam is ready to go back-to-back Hydro Cannons. Do they call that I'm going to go straight for it, or are they just going to let this go? In comes the Ice Beam, and down goes the Guzzlord. Fantastic stuff, and we see the Azumarill come back in. We have a Hydro Cannon ready to go against this. It's going to likely put them deep into the yellow, maybe even close to the red at this point, and now with this said, we can go for a full farm down with our Corsola, absorb all of the damage we can, and we have a lot of energy on our Alolan Sandslash, a lot of energy on Corsola as well. We should be in a very good spot. Our opponent showing the final Pokemon here is a Goodra. A little bit slow on that swap by me, but it's still a very good spot to be in because we have so much energy on our Alolan Sandslash. All we have to be concerned about at this point is maybe getting Dragon Breath down here in the 2-shield matchup, just because Dragon Breath, despite being resisted, is a very high damage attack. Ice Punch once again going to be thrown against this Goodra. It draws a second shield, and if we can get a third one off, we're going to be in a good spot, but if they throw energy as well, it's going to help us out even more, get an extra sneak of the Powder Snow, 1 less Powder Snow needed to reach this next Ice Punch, and now we just about have it. I can shield this up, and even if they make a catch here, I know my Corsola can finish off this game going for a Nightshade against this Goodra. They do go for a nice catch, but that is totally fine. Once again, all I have to do is farm down this Azumarill with our Corsola, and then have a Nightshade loaded for Goodra later on. In comes Corsola. It does exactly that. Our opponent top lefting before we have a chance to throw a move. Next game up against a Jumpluff lead. Fantastic lead matchup. One of the best leads we could see here, but then they come in with one of the worst save swaps that we could possibly see here. Our whole team is actually a little bit weak to this Pokemon. With that said, we can go for an Ice Punch and then try to swap out. I think that the play here that I've done in the future is actually swap out immediately to Feraligatr, actually, after I end up tripping them with an Ice Punch. But this game, I was a little bit unsure of what to do, so I'm kind of trying to figure out what to do. How do I want to get rid of this thing? And now I'm going to go for a Drill Run. I'm staying in this matchup, which might be a bad play, because we know that Jumpluff is in the lead, and it's a Pokemon that honestly I would not want my Gator against if we could help it. I do catch a Charge Move here. I'm hoping that our Corsola is going to be able to farm this down at this point. If we can, this could be big, but this is still going to be awkward. They can swap out to their Jumpluff and get some use out of it. I just have to hope that our Shadow Feraligatr in the backline is going to see a good matchup. In comes a Charge Move, likely going to be an Energy Ball. It will do quite a bit of damage to us, but not enough to put us into Aerial. Strangely, likely need another full-on Energy Ball to knock us out. Power Gem coming through. If our opponent does end up shielding this up, then I can land an Ice Beam with our Gator later on. They actually opt to no-shield it, and now it's going to be interesting. Can we reach another move before they do? They let us reach this attack, which should knock them out, or draw their first shield from this Jumpluff. Our opponent opting to actually let it go here, interestingly enough, and they come back in with their Dunsparce. All right, that's fine by me. I can probably go for farm down with our Shadow Feraligatr at this point, and we should be in a good spot. As long as there's not a lot of fast food pressure in the backline, Shadow Gator should be in a very good spot here. I'm expecting something like a Drapion, but no, it's going to be an Annihilate. That is catastrophic. We probably should have shielded up our Corsola at this point, because if we did, we would have been able to land a Nightshade against them and then outpace them to 2 Hydro Cannons with our Gator. Unfortunately, this 2-shield Annihilate might just have a bit too much HP to take down. They counter us all the way down there and take the win. Unfortunate stuff against a very good lead, but well played to them. Next matchup, a Marowak in the lead. A very, unfortunately this time for us, we're going to try our best here to chip this thing down with Powder Snow damage. I throw on Alignment because I want to get this off before the Bone Club. Maybe try to swap out of this matchup at some point too. Ice Punch will likely draw a shield from this Marowak because they are so squishy, and our opponent is going to throw a Charge Move against our Corsola. They're at 1 past the Bone Club, so they need to stay in for 2 more Mud Slaps if they want to bank a Charge Move or throw another one against us. Our opponent does opt to build up a little bit more energy, and then they swap out to a Shadow Drapion. This is a little awkward. They have so much energy on that Shadow Marowak, and at this point I'm kind of thinking this might be the team that I showcased the other day, running the Drapion and Dugong in the backline with the Shadow Marowak lead. If that is the case, this could get a little bit unfortunate for us in the backline. Even though we have some neutral plane to Dugong, this is just looking so bad with the amount of energy that they still have on that Marowak. In comes our Alolan Sandslash. We get denied a turn, unfortunately, because of that 1-turn lag on entry. In comes an Aqua Tail. We do survive it, and now I'm going to try our best here to farm down with our Shadow Gator. Maybe Energy Lead on our Feraligatr could potentially win us this game. In comes likely a Crunch here. Oh, it's going to be an Aqua Tail bait, actually. That's catastrophic, and they have the back-to-back combo play for us right now. In comes a Bone Club. I have to shield this up, or it would basically knock us out here. I do have a Hydro Cannon loaded. I actually have 2 right now back to back. There's a chance there's something like maybe a Talonflame in the back line that I could still beat. Maybe an Annihilate as well could potentially be winnable. So there is still hope until we see what that final Pokemon is going to be. There is still that Drapion as well, though, as they catch potentially later on this game, but it is going to be that Dugong. Unfortunately for us, this is looking very rough. I do have a catch potentially on our Alolan Sandslash, and we have a little bit of energy there as well, but I don't think we'll have quite enough damage to knock this Pokemon out. First Hydro Cannon comes through, puts them close to half health, but this next one is not going to knock them out or put them into Shadow Claw downrange, at least just yet. All they need is 2 Drill Runs, and they are very close to back-to-back moves right now. I try to catch, but our opponent makes another catch on us, even though we tried to catch or reach the Ice Punch, but neither happened. We end up throwing the Ice Punch into the Shadow Drapion, and at that point, they're basically at back-to-back Drill Runs. They took us down there. GG's to them. Next game, it's going to be a Wigglytuff in the lead, one of the best possible leads that we could see with an Alolan Sandslash. If they stay in, that's even better, and it likely means there's going to be a Drifblim in the backline, but our opponent actually stayed in for a second and then swapped to a Marowak, which is very interesting. Ice Punch likely going to draw a shield here, and as long as I can get shields down, then I'm not going to be that worried about that Wigglytuff, even with our Shadow Feraligatr. In comes a Charge Move, likely going to be a Bone Club, unless they're running like that crazy Earthquake moveset that maybe someone's running out there. I've never actually seen it. I do know it can learn it, though. In comes the next Charge Move from this Marowak, though. Once again, I don't really care, at least at this point, about keeping Switch. I just want to get shields down, because I know that potentially we have a lot of play with either a Shadow Feraligatr or with our Alolan Sandslash with a lot of shields. In comes our next Charge Move here, Nightshade able to get the knockout against them, and potentially we can reach a Charge Move against Wigglytuff, but I think it's just going to be a Nightshade, so not going to do too much damage to us, but it will be able to do quite a bit of stalling on the switch clock here, so no matter what, after that chip and dip, we will be able to have our switch clock back up. In comes our Alolan Sandslash. Final Pokemon revealed from our opponent. It's going to be a Dunsparce, a Pokemon that, while it is a bit awkward for our team, we have a lot of neutral play into it, especially with our Shadow Feraligatr, especially up a shield. They have a little bit of an energy lead, but I know that we can reach 3 Hydro Cannons, which is all it's going to take to knock them out, and even if we can land 1 here, potentially that's going to put them into range where an Ice Punch could knock them out. We do have a decision to make. Do we want to shield this? And I do opt to, knowing that a Drill Run is likely going to do the most amount of damage left in the game, so I will shield up our Feraligatr here and try our best to land these Shadow Hydro Cannons. I do land that move there. It does a massive amount of damage, and now I'm going to double shield our Shadow Feraligatr, knowing that these Hydro Cannons are going to be so worth it to try to land later on this game, and now overfarm as much as we can. We do have the Hydro Cannon loaded. I wouldn't be surprised if our opponent tries to swap right now, so if they do swap, I want to swap out as well. I want to save that Hydro Cannon for that Dunsparce in the back line, and I want to come back in with our Alolan Sandslash to try to knock out the Swigglytuff. I am going to go for these Ice Punches here. Drill Run does do slightly more damage, but at this point, all I need is 2 charge moves. I don't need that extra raw damage of Drill Run. It isn't even that much extra. It's like 1 or 2 extra damage in a lot of scenarios. Swift comes through, doesn't quite knock us out, and as long as the Dunsparce doesn't come out with a move and then we 1-turn lag with our Shadow Feraligatr, we should be in a good spot. But I mean, 1-turn lag is common. There's a chance here we could lose this game. Hopefully that doesn't happen, though. They do get 2 rollouts. I do have that move loaded, and we are able to throw it. They don't have a move just yet. Shadow Feraligatr able to close up the backline here and win us this match. GG's to our opponent. Shadow Feraligatr, once again, one of my favorite Pokemon in the game. Even in those bad matchups, it has a lot of play. Looks like this next matchup up against King IV, one of the best streamers and content creators out there. I'm going to try my best to beat him. That was a terrible lead matchup. Annihilate into the Alolan Sandslash, and then they come in with a Toxapex to answer our Shadow Feraligatr. This is looking so bad for us right now. I'm going to try to get an energy lead with our Alolan Sandslash after this matchup plays out, because I don't think there's any way I can flip switch here unless he ends up going and letting us go down shields and not shielding himself. In comes the next Hydro Cannon. Potentially, I will be able to knock him out with the third Hydro Cannon here, but I know at this point a Brine is probably enough to knock us out, which is so uncomfortable, or at least put us into Poison Jab downrange. We do end up shielding up a Brine here. I'm hoping that right now our opponent is going to shield up this move, because I want to get a nice Powder Snow down against them. In comes our next Hydro, but he opts to no shield that, knowing that a Shadow Drapion up shields is just as threatening as anything else in the game. In comes our Alolan Sandslash, which technically is normally an answer here, but we are down a shield and down 5 Poison Stings of energy. This means that they can spam out these crunches, and I know for a fact this is going to be a very tricky game to win. I have Corsola in the backline, which is very good against the Annihilate, but I also know that our Sandslash is not going to be able to take out this Drapion, at least nowhere near enough to be able to knock them out or take the shields before they're able to just take down our Corsola. Crunch is going to knock out our Alolan Sandslash, unfortunately, and at that point, yeah, not much that we can do there. GG's to them. Next game, Sandslash up against a Corviknight, a very interesting lead matchup. I have 2 much better matchups to this in the backline, but it's not like we're that weak to it with our Alolan Sandslash, because Sand Attack, once again, one of the worst moves in the game. It wouldn't do that much damage to us. So we're going to try our best here to just spam out these Hydro Cannons. For some reason, our opponent actually came in with a Shadow Quagsire of all things to respond to our Shadow Feraligatr safe swap. That is by no means an answer up energy or even down energy here, especially it's going to be just completely destroyed here with Shadow Claws. I did shield up the Stone Edge, and what's going to come in here might be the Corviknight once again, or it might be the third Pokemon. It is going to be the Corviknight, and I'm going to just spam out these Hydro Cannons, try to get my shield back, or as much damage into this as we can. In comes the first Hydro into them. It does almost half of their health, probably a little over half their health, actually. Next Hydro Cannon going to come through. They are going to have to throw energy likely to knock us out before we reach yet another Hydro Cannon, because Sand Attack is doing no damage here, and they are deep into the red at this point. I know those charge moves aren't really going to do that much damage to our Alolan Sandslash, and I know our Corsola in the backline as well is going to be able to sponge these fast moves so easily. In comes our Corsola here. If they throw a charge move, I'll just no-shield it, farm them all the way down, and hope that either our Corsola or potentially our Alolan Sandslash will have a favorable matchup in the back. Sky Attack coming through. Luckily, no payback there. In comes the Clodsire as the final Pokemon. Didn't really realize it until this match, but we are actually so incredibly powerful against these Clodsires. Our Corsola is actually probably our worst matchup. Shadow Feraligatr having super effective Hydro Cannon, and Alolan Sandslash both resisting the fast move pressure from this Pokemon and also doing super effective damage with all of its attacks. Makes it such a good matchup for us to see. We survived the Earthquake because the non-Shadow is so much bulkier than the Shadow Alolan Sandslash, and once they realize that they cannot farm us down, they top left. GG's to them. Corviknight, once again, this time though, in the lead. Very interesting Pokemon, but I'm able to come in with our Shadow Feraligatr and try to put in some work against their counter swap Goodra. I'm going to go straight for the Ice Beam here, knowing that it will likely either draw shield for guarantee here, or potentially go and get a knockout. I do full send, unfortunately our opponent does end up shielding it up, which is a little awkward. I'm going to try to call an Aqua Tail. Maybe there's a chance I can get a Hydro Cannon off here, but a Thunder Punch very well played by them. They are able to knock out our Shadow Gator. In comes our Alolan Sandslash once again. Dragon Breath's not doing too much damage, but these charge moves are neutral to me, and they are able to chip us down over time. I don't want to be too low on our Alolan Sandslash here, so I will build up just a little bit of energy, go for this Ice Punch, and hope that shield advantage on our Corsola is going to be able to win us this backline. In comes the Ice Punch, in comes our Corsola. They're staying in for just a second on the Corviknight. This is very interesting. What do they have in the back? I'm going to shield just in case it's a payback, because they did stay in for quite a while in this matchup. I don't want to get a lot of my health gone just for nothing here. They Iron Head us actually, which is an interesting play. Not even a Sky Attack comes through, and finally we are going to throw a Nightshade against Corviknight here. This is going to do a decent chunk of damage if it goes through. They do let it land. Now we're going to try to fast move them down if we can. They might get to 2 charge moves here, but we should be in a good spot as long as the final Pokemon is not too bad for us. It actually is going to be the Corsola, so Corviknight and Corsola core. Interesting stuff here. Nightshade is going to be reached though from our own Corsola. We're able to reach the back-to-back and either draw both shields, or the final shield and get a knockout, or potentially just put them very low. Looks like this Nightshade is going to be able to land because they don't have any shields left. And now all I need to do is come in with our Alolan Sandslash here, land an Ice Punch, maybe even farm down potentially. I think that though, if we just land an Ice Punch here, we should be in a good spot. Nightshade getting shielded up, and Ice Punch thrown right before another Astonish is going to land. I know at this point we can just farm down that Corviknight, and hopefully as long as they don't get to another charge, maybe I can even get an Ice Punch against them. In comes Corviknight. It's going to be a little bit close actually, but they barely do not reach the Iron Head, able to farm them down and take the win there. GG's to our opponent. Next matchup, fantastic lead. Our whole team beats Shadow Drifblim, which is one of the best things about this team, but they instantly come in with a Diggersby of all things. Very interesting stuff. I do have to watch out for Fire Punch, but our Shadow, or our Powder Snow damage, rather, is adding up a lot more than Shadow Claw would, and Ice Punch, with that recent buff, doing so much damage. That said, Fire Punch also got buffed this season. I don't want to take a lot of damage if I can help it. Scorching Sand's actually being thrown by them, which is kind of interesting. And they do actually get the debuff, which I don't think at this point is going to matter. But interesting play not to go for Fire Punch here. In comes our next Ice Punch. They are going to have to shield this if they want to survive, but they let it go. And what is their final Pokemon going to be? I might want to save my Alolan Sandslash, but I also know at this point that we just have so much play with our team against that Drifblim that it might not matter. But we are just going to swap out once we see Annihilate. I don't want to let them get a huge energy lead. I'm going to come in with our Gator, shield up this Rage Fist, and try to get to back-to-back charge moves. All I need at this point is for this thing to be gone, and then our Alolan Sandslash can do all it needs to do against that Drifblim to win this game. I have back-to-back Hydro Cannons right now. What are they going to do? They end up shielding that attack. They're going to have to double shield if they want to knock out my Gator, and if they do that, then there's going to be no shields in the backline for that Corsola. Hydro Cannon does end up drawing the second shield. I can farm this down all the way with Astonish, and then land a Nightshade against that Drifblim. I know we can survive this. It is a boosted Rage Fist. They likely won't get to a second, though, and once this is out of the way, we still have almost a full health Alolan Sandslash, but this is a Shadow Drifblim. We don't even need Sandslash at this point. All we need to do is land this attack. It will knock them out. They are very squishy, and down goes the balloon, down goes the little monkey guy, and Corsola, the little coral dead coral thing, I guess is what it is, able to pick up the win there. Next game, another Azumarill and Leaf, fantastic stuff, but also I do want to keep an eye out for a potential core breaker in the backline. We might want to bait out with the Shadow Feraligatr, so I'm going to build up a little bit of energy, potentially swap out once they throw a charge move, and see how they want to play this game out. Run comes through, does a decent third of their health here. Powder Snow is resisted. This is where maybe having like a Shadow Claw fast move would help out a little bit. They build up to 100 energy, so at this point, they do have 2 more bubbles until they can get to another play rough, which is a little bit unfortunate. It means I will have to shield my Gator early on if they end up coming or throwing a move there, but they come in with a Morpeko instead, which is a very interesting Pokemon to see. Our backline does not like to see this Pokemon at all, but I can get a shield here with Hydro Cannon because of just how powerful Shadow Feraligatr is. They would likely have to go for a Psychic Fang, so if they want to outpace us, I'm going to call it. Psychic Fangs does come through. They have to throw their second one now if they don't want to have to double shield Morpeko, and that is exactly what they're going to do. Luckily, we do have a lot of energy on Alolan Sandslash. We got shield advantage, which likely means Morpeko here is going to no-shield our Alolan Sandslash, and we can knock them out without them kind of just grabbing through our entire team. Ice Punch coming through right now. Our opponent could shield this up, but it might not even knock them out, just barely doesn't, but we can get 1 extra Powder Snow and KO the Morpeko. Likely the Azumarill is going to come back in. They do have quite a bit of energy on that thing, but I have no idea what their final Pokemon is going to be. I do know that sometimes you see Drapion with Azumarill. I shouldn't say sometimes. It's a very common pairing, so I don't want to invest in my Corsola just yet. I'm going to no-shield this move, likely going to be a play rough here, and Corsola should have an energy lead for the backline. Okay, it's not actually going to be what I thought it was with the Drapion. It's going to be even better. It's going to be a Shadow Drifblim, but this could be a little bit awkward just with how much faster pressure they're going to have. They can farm our Corsola all the way down right before we get the next Nightshade, and because we have 2 shields at this point, all I want to do is I want to get this Drifblim out of here before they're going to be able to land a potential Astonish against us. In comes the Icy when they end up debuffing our attack stat here, but we CMP the move because I wanted to make sure, once again, that no Astonish was going to be thrown. In comes the Ice Punch, and I have to reach 2 Drill Runs against this Azumarill before they're going to be able to knock us out with bubble damage. It's going to be very close. 1 Drill Run is already queued up here. It won't knock out at this point. We are debuffed thanks to that Icy Wind, but can I survive this next bubble here? Go for 2 Powder Stones, just barely able to reach this Drill Run to knock out the Azumarill and take us this match. Very close game there. Luckily, Drifblim, being a Pokemon our whole team has played into, was able to win us that backline there. Alright, next game, Alolan Sandslash up against Ariados, and they're staying in. We resist all of the fast and charge move pressure they're running, unless for some reason they're running Shadow Sneak, but I would honestly doubt that that would even help them out too much here. Lunge ends up coming through, debuffing our attack stat, which could be a little bit annoying, but I'm still resisting everything they're throwing, and I know that Alolan Sandslash can always win this matchup. Once this is out of the way, I'm hoping that our Shadow Feraligatr is going to have a little bit more wiggle room in the backline, and comes yet another debuff here, and I'm going to have to farm up as much energy as I can possibly to maybe have moves for whatever's going to come in to farm us down. I know at this point, though, if they're staying in with Ariados against our Alolan and Sandslash, there's a good chance there's something in the backline weak to either Ice or that doesn't have a lot of damage against Steel-type moves. So I do want to save a bit of energy on our Alolan and Sandslash here, potentially using it against whatever's going to come in, or maybe swapping out depending on what it's going to be. In comes Feraligatr, actually a Pokemon a little bit scary for our backline, honestly for our whole team to see, but our own Shadow Feraligatr is going to come in here, go for a Hydro Cannon, try to draw a shield, and see what they want to do. They actually opt to let it go, which is a little bit interesting. Normally you see Shadow Feraligatr just double shield every single time. In fact, that's what I'm probably going to do here. In comes the first Hydro Cannon, we shielded up. In comes the second one. Unfortunately, they do survive just barely here, but because we are loaded on energy right now, I'm not that upset about double shielding and just going for charges against whatever's going to come in. In comes a Guzzlord here, a Pokemon that we can one-shot potentially with an Ice Beam. We have Ice Punches in the back line with our Alolan Sandslash, but we are also kind of core broken in the back. Corsola has almost nowhere to go, and I know for a fact that we have no Fast Pressure with this Pokemon. But we have energy, right? We have an Ice Punch on our Alolan Sandslash, nearly 2, although I don't know if we have enough HP to be able to actually reach that second one. Our opponent does opt to throw a Charge Attack here, which should knock us out, and now I think at this point, as long as we can get a shield with an Ice Punch, we are 2 Shadow Claws away from an Ice Beam with our Shadow Feraligatr. We might actually be able to win this endgame. In comes our Alolan Sandslash. Yeah, we are 1 Powder Snow away from the next one, so if I am able to get DRE, I will be able to get that next Ice Punch off, but if I can't, then I'm going to have to rely on our Feraligatr to survive 1 Dragon Tail and get an Ice Beam to knock out this Guzzlord and barely close out this backline. GG's to our opponent. Very, very close endgame here, but Ice Beam just enough to knock out the scary Dragon-type Pokemon. Next game, Sandslash up against a Malamar lead. Another Pokemon that honestly our team doesn't have a great answer to, but we're going to try to just combo play this, maybe go with an Ice Punch and then Chip and Dip here back into our Shadow Feraligatr, because although we don't have a hard answer, we have a lot of soft answers, a lot of neutral damage into this thing. Ice Punch is going to end up landing against this Malamar, and they are going to throw a Charge Move against our Shadow Feraligatr when we come back in. I know at this point that a Superpower or a Foul Play would do quite a bit, so I will shield it up, but they come in with a Dunsparce right after. This is a little bit tricky, but I do like to see this here rather than against our Corsola, so we're going to try our best to get as many Hydro Cannons as we can. Maybe farm this down with our Sandslash or something. I don't know. This is going to be a bit tricky. In comes our next Hydro Cannon here. This is going to do a lot of damage, and the next one would be enough to knock out. With that said, Dunsparce is scary, especially up shields and up energy. I don't know exactly how we're going to finish this thing off, because this Hydro Cannon does end up getting shielded, and they can reach yet another charge move right before I can reach my next Hydro Cannon. I'm going to no-shield this, hope that we can figure out a way to take this down, either with our Alolan Sandslash or with our Corsola here. It's going to be a tricky endgame, but I know if anyone can do it, it's going to be Corsola once this Dunsparce is gone. I catch a charge move as well. I'm going to keep a lot of energy on our Alolan Sandslash, and hope that Corsola up energy can win us the backline. No, I guess not. It's a Diggersby in the back. Probably the worst thing we could have seen, but GG's to them. Alright, next game here, an Azumarill in the lead. One of the rarest Pokemon to ever see in the Go Battle League. You never see Azumarill. This Pokemon is not good at all, right? Surely. Our whole team's actually kind of strong against this, though, so I'm going to go and build up as much energy as I can. Potentially use this energy against whatever they're going to bring into our Shadow Feraligatr safe swap, because we are going to have to try to bait out a Core Breaker. Once again, a Morpeko in the back. We've seen Guzzlords in the back with Azu, Morpekos, so it's a good thing that we're swapping out and baiting these things out. Hydro Cannon should be able to draw a shield, and we have a very big call to make. Are they going to go for an Aura Wheel, or are they going to go for a Psychic Fangs? I'm going to no-shield. Psychic Fangs ends up being thrown, and because they were greedy, now they're going to throw another charge move to knock us out, or let us get yet another Hydro Cannon through. At this point, I'm kind of fine just letting this go. I have a lot of energy on Alolan Sandslash. They are energy dry on this Morpeko, so I can come in here, go for a Drill Run. If they end up shielding this move, I have back-to-back. If they end up no-shielding, then they are down a full Pokemon here that basically got almost nothing done, even though it was in a very good matchup. In comes the Azumarill once again. I'm going to swap out to our Corsola, and we are met by a Drifblim. Fantastic for us to see. We love seeing Drifblim. Our whole team has play into this, and once again, Nightshade should do quite a bit of damage if it ends up going through. Our opponent does end up shielding that attack, and even though I know this is an icy one, it is a tempting thing to shield, just because I know at this point it's likely going to do a lot more damage than anything the Azumarill is going to throw, at least if it was a Shadow Ball, and this next Nightshade should be able to outpace and knock out this Drifblim, because we were up energy. Drifblim goes down here, and although we are in a good spot, this could be a little bit tricky because this Azumarill is still pretty healthy. I'm debuffed on our Corsola, though. I know I can clear this debuff, save a Nightshade for later on this game, and potentially come back in with our Alolan Sandslash going for drill runs and trying to knock out this Azumarill before they can get too much work done. Drill run number 1 is going to come through. It does do a decent chunk of damage. Honestly, the next one might be enough to knock them out here, and because Azumarill cannot load back-to-back charge moves, if they are not able to farm us down perfectly, they are not going to be able to win this game. They need to have a charge move coming out of this matchup, but even if they do, I have a Nightshade as well, so they need me to one-turn lag, which is always a win condition, but not exactly the most noble one, but our opponent not even able to knock out our Alolan Sandslash. We were able to farm them down. GG's to them. Next matchup, Sandslash up against a Shadow Kanto Marowak. One of the trickiest Pokemon that I could possibly see. Once again, we're going to just stay in the lead, try our best to whittle this thing down, but our opponent tries to catch an Ice Punch on their Dugong. Luckily, I don't fall for it, and now I can come in with our Corsola after building up a massive amount of energy with our Alolan Sandslash there. The thing is, I know that this is likely going to be the team that I featured the other day, running a Shadow Drapion on the back line, so once this Dugong's out of the way, I think our Alolan Sandslash is going to have a lot of work to be able to do with all of the energy that it has. In comes Power Gem. It is debuffed, but it still does a massive amount of damage here. We did just learn that I win CMP. My Corsola, unfortunately, is not that high of a stat spread one. It is, I think, like a 12, 15, 15. It came from an egg. I haven't built a better one yet because I haven't got a better one, so I'm just trying our best here to use Corsola as a way to sponge energy and then set up farm downs for our backline. Icy Wind does end up knocking us out, but I'm totally fine with that. I want to get as many Shadow Claws of energy as I can here. This is going to be a nasty farm down if they don't reach a charge move, but unfortunately they are able to reach one, and of course one turn lag makes it so we get denied here. Icy Wind ends up getting shielded, very unfortunate for us, but this much energy should put in a lot of work against basically anything in the backline. Our opponent, though, is going to have a Toxapex. It's not going to be Shadow Drapion, a different poison type in the backline, but I have so much energy on our Alolan Sandslash. I can reach one Ice Punch, two Ice Punches. I'm so close to the third Ice Punch at this point. I don't know if our opponent is keeping count here. In comes Ice Punch. Are they going to shield this up? They do. Our next one is loaded in just a second, but they once again are going to throw nearly instantly here to try to knock out our Alolan Sandslash. They are very close to their next Bone Club. It was likely going to get it on that next Mud Step, so I'm going to be forced to throw instantly here, and I'm going to try our best to go for a Drill Run to chip down this potential Toxapex in the back line, and then we have energy on our Shadow Feraligatr we're going to have to use to try to knock this thing out. That said, they are close to a Sludge Wave. Sludge Wave would do nearly enough damage to knock out our Shadow Gator at this point. I don't think it would knock us out from this range, which is probably for the best, because we did end up CMPing here. It's going to be so close, though, probably within one or two poison jabs of knocking us out. I have back-to-back charge moves loaded, though. I don't know if this is enough to knock out the Toxapex. Sludge Wave comes through, doesn't quite knock us out. Is this Hydro Cannon enough to knock them out? I kind of need it to be. We have no HP left over on our Alolan Sandslash. It comes through, it doesn't quite knock them out here. Sandslash comes back in, and we barely Powder Snow down before they end up poison jabbing down our Steel-type Pokemon. GG's to our opponent. That was such a close endgame there. Alright, well, thank you so much for watching today's video. If you want to see my battles live, I stream daily at twitch.tv/ItsAXN, where you can see live insights into my gameplay and see my teams early. I'd love to see you there. The link to that is down in the description. And if you want to see more videos like this, please make sure to subscribe. Thank you again for watching. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.